when you.
Hello, my astrology friends. This is Lada from Astrolada.com, and here we are with the 2023 Astrology Marathon, where the top astrologers around the world, we discuss together what the year 2023 will hold, and we dive deep. So thank you for joining me, Kesenya. I love Kesenya's work. Hi, Kesenya.
Hello, Lada. Hello, everybody.
Thank you. Hi from Bulgaria. Kesenya is in Australia. Quite late there, I can see. But we're discussing today Saturn in Pisces.
We're actually talking about Pluto and Aquarius.
Oh,
so I'm. Don't give me a heart attack, Lada. I'm like, I haven't prepared for that.
Sorry, I have many interviews lined up and I get confused yet.
I know.
Topic,
Like,
Pluto in Aquarius.
I am curious about Saturn in Pisces because that's going to affect me very strongly when that happens. But we'll stick with Pluto and Aquarius for now.
You'll start looking younger when Saturn transits your ascendant.
Really?
And
that doesn't bring more wrinkles?
No, the opposite. It made me blonde and it made me look younger.
I love that. Okay, bring it on. I'm ready for it then.
No, because I started feeling older, so I did the right things to look younger.
Yeah, it probably makes you work harder to maintain your looks when Saturn's in the first. Yeah, of course. But it's going to be 6 houses from my moon, and in the Gochara system or Gochara system in Vedic astrology, that's actually really beneficial. So I'm like, oh, I can't wait for Saturn in Pisces. That'll be great.
It's productive as well, yeah. And by the way,
good.
Start about Pluto in Aquarius, which is such an important topic. Just want to say that all Kesenya's courses that she's done will be on a nice discount. This is her gift for the 2023 marathon that we're doing, and she's introducing a new webinar that she's done about the astrology of midlife. Can you just tell us with a couple of sentences a bit about it?
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, I am in my midlife, quite frankly, because in astrology, we kind of consider that midlife runs from sort of roughly 35 when Saturn matures through to the second Saturn return. And so that's kind of the midlife. And then we go into our elderhood and our eldership. So, from the age of 35, we're kind of in the zone with our midlife transits. And so in this course, I think it's 14 different transits that we experience common to everyone in that time, and what to expect and what they bring your life. And it's so interesting, Lada, because we were chatting before we started recording about how back in before they discovered the planet Uranus, the general cycle of life was maybe 40 to 60 years at most, which is 2 cycles of Saturn. So we were really governed by Saturn back in those days. And prior to the discovery of Uranus, all we knew were the visible planets, didn't know about Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. But then when we discovered Uranus, as you rightly said a few moments ago when we were talking, people began to live longer and longer and longer until now we're actually governed by a Saturn cycle, which is 84 years.
Uranus cycle. Uranus cycle.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Thank you. Yes. So a Uranus cycle.
That's
so midlife.
What the creative human design said exactly with the discovery of Uranus, we live a Uranus cycle now. So, yeah.
Yeah. So when we were governed by Saturn, the 2 cycles of Saturn, sort of midlife might have been in the 20s and maybe early 30s if you were really lucky, which is just so different to our midlife concept today, which is more 40s, 50s in association with the length of time that we're living. So there's different ideas. Like, for example, back in that day, you only got married once, and that was enough for one lifetime to fit that in. But now we're marrying 2, 3, 4 times and more, because our lives are longer.
Yeah, in line with Uranus as well. If we're now ruled more by Uranus,
more divorce. I love it.
So yes,
but yeah, so
I'm putting a link below. If anyone would like to check out Kesenya's courses, they're incredible. They're her own research. It's something unique that you're not going to find, and especially this course on midlife, which I need as well. So, and there is a really nice discount on those ones for the next few weeks, guys.
Terrific. Yeah.
Now let's do Pluto in Aquarius. That's
okay. Well, it's coming really fast, but I guess, Lada, and I want to really have a conversation with you here. Like, I just don't want to be preaching at everybody about what's going to happen. But I mean, I don't think you can really understand Pluto and Aquarius until you've had a bit of an analysis of Pluto and Capricorn, which is what we've all been going through since 2008. And, you and I, everybody watching knows we've been in a, bit of an economic upheaval since 2008 with the GFC as Pluto entered Capricorn and also conjuncted Jupiter at that time. We also have seen, and one of the things Pluto does is it exposes corruption and brings it to the surface, not just corruption, but anything mucky and dirty. So during this time, when Pluto was in Sagittarius, we had exposed a lot of the corruption in the priesthood and pedophile priests and all that sort of thing. Then Pluto's in Capricorn, and we're seeing hierarchical organizations and structures and authority figures being brought down, like the Jeffrey Epstein stuff and the Harvey Weinstein stuff. And recently governments been exposed for the corruption that they're putting on the masses. So we've really been, like, Pluto's been doing the work to dredge up the muck in these Capricorn hierarchical areas. And of course, once these things, Pluto is like shining a light into the basement, of society. And once we've got the visibility of all this muck, then it's up to us to start cleaning it out. And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think that as Pluto moves into Aquarius, it's been exposed over this Pluto and Capricorn time. Am I there?
Sorry, you interrupted for a bit, but yeah, you're back. Yeah,
I'm back.
Who trusts the government or banks or such Capricorn institutions anymore? No one.
No one.
Maybe 10% of people. Some are still in stock, some are on the fence, but after Pluto's work, and I think because Pluto will come in and out of Aquarius at the beginning. It will just dip for a couple of months from March 23rd till June.
Yeah.
And then it will
June 11th.
June 11th. And it will come back in 2024. So Pluto will come back to Capricorn again. And I've noticed every time Pluto does an ingress to a sign, even if it's a sign it's been in, something big happens. So I think something really exposing to the governments will come again when Pluto dips back in Capricorn. Not only governments, but big institutions, big pillars of society, like we consider the dinosaur pillars of societies and institutions. Yes. So there will be maybe some big collapse of institutions. Could it be banks? Could it be governments falling down? Something. So we'll finish the job from June again.
In financial astrology, one of the principles is that every time an outer planet, particularly Pluto, because he was the god of ancient wealth in ancient mythology, before he became the god of the underworld. And it's really interesting to look at the mythology, actually, because if you think about the dark times in life, they're metaphoric times for discovering deep wealth within us, our inner fortitude, our inner gold, our inner strength. And the discoveries we have, like when I had my Pluto square in 2010, coming out of that Pluto square cycle, I wouldn't go back to who I was before that happened. It was really hard. It was the underworld experience. It was dark night of the soul, but it came out just with so much gold, metaphorically, after that experience. And so I don't know where I was going with that, but I've gone off on a tangent. But yes, Pluto is the god of the underworld, and then prior to that was the god of great wealth, and we find our great wealth in the underworld experiences oftentimes. So being that he's associated with great wealth and his ingress into new signs, there is often a change in the financial situation of the world, which happened when he moved into Aquarius Capricorn in 2008. And financial astrology always says, look at what Pluto is doing with ingress and reversals into signs, because there's, like you say, big things going to happen. So I think something financial might be on the cards for sure. But there's 3 times, and I've got the dates written down here. Like you said, March 23rd to June 11, he's going to be in Aquarius, and then he backs up into Capricorn. He goes into Aquarius again on January the 20th, 2024, and will be there until September the 1st, 2024. And then on November the 19th, he goes in again to Aquarius and stays there until March the 8th, 2043. So 20 years he's going to be there. And, you know, his cycles in the signs are growing longer now. Pluto spends the shortest amount of time in the sign of Scorpio. And then he yeah.
We don't want it too long. No, it's its own sign, but that's when eight exploded and kind of stuff like that.
But you know what I realized, Lada, is that the Pluto in Scorpio generation of people are the millennials, who are, I think, the ones, they don't take any bullshit. You know, they're not going to, they're going to, you know, they're not afraid to do their own shadow work. They're not afraid to face the darkness and to make changes. So I think this generation is really going to turn things around, and we need them. We really need them.
And they don't trust. They don't trust institutions, governments. They're very scorpionic, and Scorpio is a very rebellious sign that it's like, I will believe my own truth and I will research it to the bottom. So they're questioning a lot of the paradigms of the past that previous generations like us took for, you know, as what reality is. So
yeah, and thank goodness for them. And so interesting to me, you know, where well, you're Pluto in Libra, aren't you? Yes. Yeah. We're both Pluto in Libra. So it's all, we're just dealing with relationships. That's just what we're up to. But Pluto in Leo was a massive generation. And that was sort of from 1938 to 1957. And there was a lot of megalomania, let's face it, that was on the planet at that time, with, you know, your Hitlers and your Mussolinis and your all that sort of stuff that was going on. But they were a big group of people. And then there's little old, you know, Pluto in Virgo and Pluto in Libra, which is not a big generation of people. But then along come the Pluto and Scorpio, and that's quite a large group too. There's masses of them. So it's just interesting to me that you know, Pluto was in Scorpio for quite a short period of time. It spends its least amount of time in the sign of Scorpio, and because of its elliptical orbit. But they're actually a big large populous generation. And
but there are more births, because Scorpio is a very fertile sign, so maybe fertility erodes a lot as well. And they changing everything, transformations. While the Pluto in Leo, what are those called? The baby boomers. They're the rockers. They're the they're the big rockers of the 60s, the 70s.
That's it. That's right.
They were still with long hair, like cool granddad. They are like that, a lot of them.
They are a fun generation, the Pluto and Leo, and they had some really good times, you know. When you look back at the lives that they've led, like it's so interesting to me to look at these big generational movements of history, because Pluto, and it's good that we're talking about Pluto and Leo, because it's opposite Pluto in Aquarius, you know, which is what we're about to enter into. And when you think about, for example, a lot of the people who had to go and fight World War I and World War II were Pluto in Cancer generation people. And we've currently been, you know, they had all this upheaval in their lives, and we've currently been living through Pluto in Capricorn, the opposite sign, and it's brought all this upheaval to our experience on the planet. And I just can't help but think, you know, what is it about this Capricorn Cancer axis that is just so full of this great upheaval that seems to happen? And then you had Pluto in Leo, and they, you know, had all these great times of prosperity and growth and abundance. In modern astrology, I have read that it is considered that Pluto is exalted in Leo. Now, I don't know how much truth there is to that. And so that concerns me, because you know, if he's exalted in Leo, he's in his fourth in Aquarius. So I don't know whether I really believe in that dignity or not, but I guess time will tell, and we're about to find out. We'll see.
I always, when I say Aquarius, I don't know why, even though I'm Aquarius rising, I love Aquarius, but there is also this side of Aquarius that I imagine the you know, the Game of Thrones, those that's what, no, the Cold Walkers, what were they called? If you watched it. Oh, you haven't seen it?
I haven't seen, I know about it, but I haven't watched it. I don't know.
They're like these beings from the cold with the icy look, and also associated a bit. Everyone has associated, even if you go and Google the horoscope of the Antichrist. I know it's not, but he's like Aquarius, 7 planets Aquarius, because like there's this disconnection from the heart. It's all about the mind. It's all about being very intelligent but not connected to the heart. So I'm worried a little bit of Pluto in Aquarius not creating, but let's say some people going in that extreme, some people disconnecting from the heart, because Pluto is about extremes, taking something, even kind of mutating it to something beyond a normalcy. So I'm worried some people will become almost like a robot-like and disconnected from the heart, and some will merge with machines. That's very Aquarian, cyborgian, chips, implants. That would be one extreme, but I'm sure there'll be
and that makes sense, because Leo is the sign of the heart. Leo rules the heart, and opposite it is Aquarius, which is the opposite of that, like you say, being too scientific, you know, and too technologically focused, like science at the cost of all else. You know, science at the cost of spirituality might be one of the hallmarks of the next 20 years, which would be really, really sad to see.
There'll be a big push in that direction for them to, for the dark forces that always try to inverse or do the worst of a, you know, the worst of a sign and energies. There'll be a push to make people less and less spiritual, and to disconnect them from that, to say, what is that soul? And that would be one extreme, and that's very Ahrimanic in nature. But I'm sure there'll be an incredible new side to Aquarius as well, Pluto in Aquarius. Would you like
Absolutely.
what you think?
Yeah, well, I've kind of got some notes and ideas here that looking at the good things and then looking at the challenges that there will be present in the next.
I'm not going to interrupt you for a bit. I want to listen to everything so people don't get distracted for a bit. So
sure. Well, and I also did some research about the times previously when Pluto was in Aquarius. So I might just briefly start with a breakdown of what was going on there, because I think it's very enlightening. You know, we look to the past to learn about our present. So we had, the last time Pluto was in Aquarius, we had the French Revolution, you know, and I think we're having similar kinds of rumblings towards that eventuality now. Cries for freedom, cries for equality. You know, we've had the hierarchies, as we talked about, exposed through the last couple of years, particularly as Pluto's been in the latter degrees of Capricorn. Things become very you know, Pluto's got to get his job done, and so he speeds up his work and he puts more emphasis on his work, which is exposing the corruption in the hierarchies and the structures and the organizations. And I believe that's what happened last time when Pluto was in Capricorn and then moving into Aquarius, that caused the French Revolution. They were like, well, we're sick of them eating cake and we're eating bread, so off with their heads, kind of thing. And so I think that's, you know, I can see similarities there unfolding now as well. The American Revolution began while Pluto was in Capricorn last time, and it continued right through into the Pluto in Aquarius age, which was sort of 1775 to 1783. For those of us who are Australian,
it started already in America. We're still in Pluto and Capricorn. The division, it's huge. I think we're maybe not so obvious, but the revolution has started. So
well, Pluto returned.
Who knows, might lead to civil war again. Sorry, I interrupted again. I shut up.
No, interrupt all you like, because I love having a conversation with you, Lada. I always learn so much. So So yeah, I can totally see more of that happening in America again, but let's hope it doesn't have to come to war. Let's hope we can diplomatically maybe sort it out this time around. In Australia, you know, where I live, well, there's something called the First Fleet, which was the first group of 7 convict ships came to Australia. It was a couple of year journey, by the way, to get here from England in those days. And they came in 1787 to like establish this convict settlement with their first load of convicts at that time. And that, of course, brought huge social change in England because they were dumping all their unwanted members of society out here. That's what Australia was, a dumping ground for criminals and people who stole a loaf of bread to feed their family and that sort of thing. So again, we've got this social change element, and Aquarius is a social air sign. So I think, you know, social change of many varieties are going to be unfolding when Pluto moves into Aquarius this time.
We need a new continent, so anyone who doesn't want to be part of the system can move out there in Pluto in Aquarius.
Take me.
Colonies were formed, like a new hope. Well, okay, it was like a dumping ground, but that was new hope for those people, new lifestyle. And I see the same will happen during Pluto in Aquarius. People that don't want to be part of the mainstream that Pluto in Capricorn revealed the underbelly of, they will, because Aquarius has this about fringe groups and it's like Australia.
Alternative societies, yeah.
So that's...
And the beautiful thing about that is so many people were sent here as convicts, you know, in prison and what have you. But that soon evolved into very quickly into Australia being the lucky country. And, you know, there was so much prosperity here, so much work, so much opportunity. And that happened very early in the 18th century. So what had started out as big social change and quite a difficult circumstance blossomed into a very beneficial, you know, thing to be in Australia. So it's very interesting to me because Pluto rules composting. And when we take, you know, the muck of, like in that case, you know, the refuse of society. I know that's a harsh thing, but I'm descended from convicts, so maybe I have the privilege of being able to say that. But the criminals and so forth, and out of that blossomed this wonderfully prosperous and economically blessed country. So it's definitely a Pluto composting and energy, just like when we compost stuff and we put it on our flowers to make them grow. So I totally, yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing Pluto can actually do. Catherine the Great.
Criminals, like, I mean, petty criminals, they were not the big criminals, they never get sent to the big
that's
ones.
Right.
But the ones that they're usually the rebels, they're usually the ones with alternative view of the world.
Yes.
So there'll be like some kind of core societies like that forming around those the refuse of society.
Oh no, I love it. I love it.
Sign me up.
So yes, I just wish we had somewhere to go to. I've been like, where can we, the last 3 years, where can I go to get away from all this crazy crap? But there is nowhere.
When the age of Aquarius was created in not created, but the official beginning of the age of Aquarius was given by the master Binsaduno, who was the teacher of the age of Aquarius. Every 2,100 years, exalted master comes to teach the lessons of the next age. Just like the 7 rishis came at the age of Cancer, Ahura Mazda at the age of Gemini. So every age, Jesus was for the Pisces age, and Binsaduno officially and by other mystics he is recognized, and he said that the change this time in the age of Aquarius, because they were telling him, teacher, should we go and teach others and go and live somewhere separate from others? And he says, no, in the age of Aquarius, it needs lawyers and teachers and what in the normal jobs, people that are awakened. You stay at your place and you shine the beacon from there. So I don't even think we'll have to like go live somewhere in the jungle or in the outback. I mean, there'll be hubs and centers probably in every town and little cities around societies or neighborhoods, but people will be connected through internet. They'll be connected through media, and
Yes.
be able to do the work without having to physically as well, connect. As
Absolutely. Online communities, and that's going to affect how we work too. We can live, more remotely now if we can connect online and do our work online. So we're going to see a lot more of like technology benefiting our lives in many ways, as well as possibly the shadow side of too much technology and science, like we said, without a heart, for sure. Yeah, I actually think there's a lot to be excited about.
Yeah, it's not going to be like we split into one live in this part of the world, the other, maybe very down the line, who knows? It's the age of Capricorn, this will happen. But he was explaining that you'll still form communities, but you'll be in the places where you are and you shine your light there, your knowledge, your beacon, and you'll connect with 2 or 3 other like-minded people to help each other. And that's enough. And we can connect with the others through technology as well, so you can use the Aquarian energy to something great as well, not just to turn into cyber.
Well, I was reading today actually, Lada, about that city in Saudi Arabia called the Line. Have you read about that? It's a very futuristic city, and it's like it's just this big, narrow, long strip that runs from.
I've seen it.
Yeah, and I looked at that and thought that's so Aquarian age, isn't it? That concept, that like high technology, very advanced, it looks so futuristic, and I think
beautiful, but it's so disconnected from the rest of the world. You live in something like a huge line, there is forests there, everything, but it's like you're on a different planet. You're not even on Earth. I was like, I got goosebumps when I saw it, and I'm like, and you can be so controlled there. But I can't. Yes, they can do it in a few cities. I can't see them doing it everywhere in the world. Just
no.
too many people.
But to me, it really summed up all that's good and all that's a bit challenging about the age of Aquarius, like very futuristic, and it was very humanitarian too. Like, oh no, everybody walks everywhere, it's really healthy and all that kind of stuff. But yet, like you said, it was detached. Here it is. If you can Google it online, you just type in Saudi Arabia, the Line, and all these images will come up of, you're in the middle of the desert, and then there's just this green wedge just running straight through it. And it's just so detached from the environment that it's actually in, which is also a little bit Aquarian as well, that energy of detachment. So, yeah, it's very
interesting. Such a city. It's every move of yours will be detectable. You can't run anywhere. You're walled in this beautiful paradise. That's, I mean, it can be great for some people. Some people need guardianship. Some people need for everything to be arranged. But
you're very diplomatic, Lada. And maybe they do. Maybe some people they need to be governed. I guess that's what they like. They feel comfortable with that, but it's not for everybody, is it?
The wet dream of someone else. I think it's the wet dream of people in power to have us living.
Absolutely, and good luck to them. They can have
they
it.
cordon off a part of the line, and you're like on the quarantine now. And if you don't take those boosters, if you don't do this, if you don't,
yeah, I hadn't even thought of that. But exactly, yeah, exactly right. Wow, I hadn't even thought of that. Oh, it doesn't bear thinking about, does it?
It's not gonna get to that. I guarantee you. I mean, like all prophecies, they're gonna try and do it for a little bit. They will. I think the Pluto in Aquarius is when they will go ahead a lot with those technocratic, digital, let's say utopia, but ultimately dystopian prison. And but Pluto in Aquarius will reveal the ugly side of it to many people.
Exactly, and
because
that's what Pluto does.
Yeah, by the end,
it brings up.
It will.
And I think
yeah,
all these Aquarian themes that are, there's plenty of good stuff, and there's plenty of quite concerning stuff as well, but they're all going to be exposed. So it'll be technocrats and their evil agendas will get exposed. And I can't help but thinking like Aquarius is connected with astrology. And so I actually think a lot of charlatan astrologers are going to get exposed for what, their falseness as well. I mean, you and I have both been subject to impersonators online and, those people who make fake accounts and that sort of thing. I mean, I think all of that, I mean, we know that that's all crap and bullshit. So we don't need that to be exposed. We know it's there, but, there might be more of that in the beginning and then it'll be dealt with perhaps as well. And, astrologers who just take other and any scientific endeavor that just takes other people's knowledge and claims it as their own and doesn't honor their sources or honor their teachers, and all that kind of falseness will also be exposed, I think, as well during Pluto and Aquarius
I really
time.
love how positive you are, but Pluto also rules persecution. So could astrologers be persecuted and banned and burned?
I'm trying not to think about that. I was actually thinking when Saturn went into Aquarius that we were probably going to get a more regulated industry, because Saturn would have generated rules and regulations for, astrologers and so forth. But it hasn't happened. So touch wood. That won't happen either. Look,
it's not we've been censored a lot.
Yeah, well, that's true. That's true. I was thinking there'd be some rules and regulations, but it's been censorship. But you know what we were saying before about Pluto in Scorpio generation? It's that generation that's woken up to astrology again, really. They're driving a lot of this resurgence of interest in astrology, and God bless them for that. And so I think there's just too many of them for the Pluto in Aquarius to sort of be detrimental, like to astrology as a field in and of itself. And if Pluto in Scorpio woke people up to wanting to know about astrology, wanting to live astrology, I think we might get another resurgence of that, actually. I think true astrology will have a bit of a revival.
Revival. Pluto is also rebirth, revival, making it ubiquitous in society. Yeah, there you go. That's the version I prefer more.
We're going with that one because that's the winner.
If they want to persecute us, I'm okay to be persecuted. That will lead to this revival and resurgence.
Yes. Well, we've probably been there and done that before for our knowledge, Lada, you and I both.
Sure. A few times at the stake.
Many, many. Which actually is really interesting because prior to the late 1700s, when Pluto was last in Aquarius, he was in Aquarius in 1532 to, I'm reading my notes, 1554, and that's when we had the Protestant Reformation. And, all these changes to that hierarchical structure, which was the Catholic Church at the time. So, and it was really interesting because that period of Pluto and Aquarius began with a Pluto-Saturn conjunction, just like this time around. So that kicked it off. And I just find that so interesting because what happened during the Protestant Reformation, people finally had the courage to speak out against the Catholic Church and wanting to reform that archaic, age-old institution. I mean, Henry VIII divorced his wife. Divorce, Aquarius, he divorced his wife. That's sort of the first notable divorce in history, wasn't it, really? That, in, when was it, 1532, at the beginning of Pluto in Aquarius at that time. So, and that kicked off more of this, establishment of the Church of England against their old hierarchy.
So being free and liberated, some revolutionary new
freedom of thought.
Yes, freedom of thought.
Freedom of thought.
Yes.
Yeah,
and Pluto is battle to the end for that freedom.
Yeah.
Good, I like
and
that.
A lot of people, but again, I have to say it, and this is perhaps a bit heavy, but people lost their heads in the French Revolution. They also lost their heads during Pluto in Aquarius, the last time with sort of Mary the First and Elizabeth, and Protestant and Catholic was, against each other, came out of that, unfortunately.
Because of new ideologies and because of wanting to be free and the truth to come out, which is very Aquarian, people will lose their lives. And it's very Plutonian as well. People will make huge, extreme sacrifices. So revolutions, that's what it takes.
It is possible. But on the plus side, Copernicus put out his theory that the Earth and the planets revolved around the sun rather than being a geocentric solar system. And he did that in 1543 when Pluto was in Aquarius. So again, that undermines the traditional authority of the Catholic Church, which said, we're a geocentric solar system. So I think, that's a perfect example of scientific progress, and we're going to have another leap forward in that regard now. I think there's going to be some amazing discoveries in terms of space travel and understanding of what's out there in the universe, at a greater level, at a greater extent. And it's so interesting to me, Lada, because it's an automatic principle, as above, so below. When we discover new planetary bodies, our consciousness level rises, and that's what we're talking about before with the discovery of Uranus leading to longer lifespans that are in accordance with the lifespan of Uranus. And it's just, that to me, we're going to make all these new scientific discoveries and discover new planets and new solar systems and new universes and what have you. Our consciousness level as a people, as a humanity, is really going to rise during this time of Pluto in Aquarius. So I'm excited by that.
Incredible correlation, because when you discover something scientifically, your mind expands. Even if you don't realize at the moment, look how it expanded the length of life, the Uranus discovery. Absolutely. Because something in your consciousness changes, something in your perspective that goes down to your DNA, and Pluto rules DNA. Pluto rules the the strands of the DNA. Aquarius rules the consciousness and the people. There will be some organic, incredible evolution in the consciousness of people. And we were talking even with Kesenya, could they be like that we live beyond 184? Like we could start living, maybe it starts with Pluto in Aquarius, like 120, 140. If it's going to happen, maybe that's when it's going to start happening. When something, there will be two ways it happens: organically, by raising of the vibration, natural evolution, like it happened last time, and some will do it through technology, which is the artificial way. So
so true, so true. Well, I wonder, I mean, the ancient texts all speak of, humans and other beings on Earth living thousands of years, so I think there is enormous potential, but we've been going through this lower age where we haven't been able to. So, who knows? Maybe we'll live as long as Neptune by the end of our lifetimes here on Earth, for you and I. And, that's, like you say, through perhaps some scientific advancement or leading maybe healthier lifestyles because we're more aware or more conscious. So, I don't know. We've got an exciting future in that sense.
It happened naturally when Uranus was discovered, and Uranus was in Aquarius when it was discovered. Suddenly, from people living, that was 1780 something, normal lifespan 40 to 60 years. Suddenly now we have 80 to 90, which is the norm, without even scientific, there is scientific, like more hygiene, better eating, so that can help. But I hope people don't opt for merging with machines and things like that. But something also can help us with science that is discovered, cleansing of the body, detoxing. But there is natural evolution, organic, that happens as people start living longer as well. Almost like the evolution of consciousness, like a jump. And I see Pluto in Aquarius very much like a jump in genetic upgradement through the vibrations people have. I don't think it's going to be for everyone. It's individual work. For whoever is ready can upgrade this genome in the body. But I'm sure it will open such possibilities. And and last time when Pluto was there was the French Revolution, and Uranus was in Aquarius. So there was a huge jump in life, 30 years span. Now we can hope maybe another 20 at least.
It's very possible. I mean, like the Vedic system of dashes works on the principle that people live 120 years. So, I think the potential has been there. Just the consciousness has not allowed it. So, it's time.
Maybe
that's everyone.
created because before we entered the Kali Yuga, and people before the Kali Yuga was 5,000 years when the normal lifespan was 30, 40 years. Just survival, basic survival, and paying off of karma. While previous years, Dvapara, the Bronze Age, which was, what was it, 2,500 years, people lived way more. And when we get to the Golden Age, that's when they're talking about hundreds of years and so on.
Yes, what is it? The King's List in ancient Egypt was kind of that era, you know, that Golden Age length of life anyway, you know, a couple of thousand years. Actually, some of them weren't they living like 30,000 years or something, like in the King's List?
I don't think all people were like that. I think the rulers then were from a more evolved human lineage. They were like what is now maybe ascended masters or whatever. While the normal lifespan of small humans in esoteric astrology, it always says that till recently was always very short lifespans because we had to come incarnate very fast to learn faster. So just use the body for 30, 40, 50 years. At periods, it was a bit longer for humans, but the majority lived short. And they said from now on, the ascending age of humanity, which started around 2,000 years, gradually the lifespan will increase more and more for the every normal Joe, you know. While before the rulers, they even would say there was like from a divine dynasty and maybe some more evolved human civilization. They were getting human, but more advanced somehow. Sorry, we went on
probably genetically bred, you know, with other galactic races, perhaps, if we want to go into all of that. But actually, you know, here we are in talking about, you know, Pluto and Aquarius. That's, you know, very Aquarian to be talking about the intergalactic connections, you know. That's an Aquarian theme as well. So as we said, space travel, that, you know, we may end up in the next 20 years putting human life on Mars, you know, exploring Mars. That's, you know, on the agenda. So it fits with the themes of Aquarius. I think there's going to be greater, in the positive, greater freedom to express ourselves as individuals, obviously, in Pluto and Aquarius. And this includes more acceptance of like differing sexual preferences, which we're already seeing kind of happening out there. You know, an urge that we've got for greater individual freedom to be who we are and be how we want to be. But yet it's Aquarius is very much about connection and community too. So in, like you were saying before, the not separate communities, but communities based around, well, I think this way and I believe this and this is my ideology, so that's my community now. And I could have, you know, my community might be with somebody in Bulgaria and someone in Australia and someone in America, you know, and that's my community through the connection that we have online. So absolutely, that's coming. More altruism, more care about what unfolds on the earth and how the earth is treated. So I think, you know, that's always a positive if we do that. And hopefully that means that the upper hierarchies also care about the community, not just forcing other you and I to live more, you know, restricted lives for the sake of the community while they fly all over the earth in their big private jets and stuff like that. So hopefully it brings more equality to these things where, okay, the big rich dudes come to the same level of care for the humanity that you and I want to see happen, you know, not just top-down instructions for how the rest of us have to live, you know.
Joe has to switch off his heater, you know, to keep the world while they are every week flying somewhere. And it worries me because they said, oh, the rich ones can buy carbon credits to fly. So they're getting a door out for themselves. Well, I'm sorry, you've finished your carbon, whatever points that you have. We switch off to electricity or whatever. Well, or you can sell it to someone rich. They're talking about that. You're selling your carbon prints to people that can afford it more, that need to travel more. So you'll just be paying more. Well,
isn't it interesting?
That's what they're trying to do. That the more freedoms you want, the more you have to pay for it, which is horrible. which is like Pluto, big money, Aquarius, freedom.
Yeah, but I think that's the role of Pluto moving into Aquarius now, is to expose that. I mean, it's already happening. It's already this inequality around, how we treat the world and, climate and all that sort of stuff. And I think, Pluto is going to say, hey, look at this. This is not fair. This is not right, because Aquarius is all about equality and, everybody on the same footing. So I think that'll be dealt with, and, maybe it might be rough getting there, but in the end, it will turn out that we're actually more equal, which I think is necessary.
That's what I believe. And I believe that by the end of this process, 40-40, whatever it was, 20-40-40 something, just like now
43.
people are absolutely skeptical to governments, and the same way at that period, all the technocracy, scientism, and digital control that they're trying to impose might start falling apart or be transformed to be used for something good, for upgrading of human consciousness, for help, making humanity equal, and so on.
Yeah, in that sense, it's quite exciting, because I think it's very, very necessary that happens in the world. I think on an individual level, some of the things that we're going to be doing as individuals during this move of Pluto into Aquarius is personally breaking free from outmoded forms of self-definition, people telling us how we should and shouldn't be. And that even includes trying to fit in with what societal norms are. I think we're going to be more able to sort of be ourselves and discover who we really are, rather than trying to sort of fit the mold. I like that idea. That's that quirky eccentricity, get my words out, eccentricity of the Aquarian energy. But I think that makes for a more colorful, creative, beautiful world. So I find that quite exciting. On the shadow side of that, though, I think, and we've seen a bit of this already over the last couple of years, I must say, one of the shadow sides, I think, of Pluto and Aquarius is what we'd call opinionitis, like, this is my opinion and therefore it goes, rather than, thinking about what's best for the community. That's, being of an opinion rather than what's best for the humanity is the shadow side of Aquarian energy. So that's a bit of a concern to me.
Rebel without a cause. Rebel.
Yeah. That's just rebelling for the sake of it. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm not opposed to a bit of rebelliousness, but I like it to be with a reason.
Imagine the generation that will be born, Pluto in Aquarius. Such kind of inequalities will not fly for them at all. They would be totally against the monstrosities that in society that we've been tolerating. And they'll transform society in the future fully.
And that's what's going to happen. There'll be massive societal transformation because of this, as has been in the last 2 times Pluto was there. But I don't know, what do you think about this? Pluto is a very kind of solid, stubborn, fixed energy. It governs Scorpio after all. And of course, Aquarius is a fixed sign too. So, people, when I'm talking about opinionitis, people can be very stubborn and inflexible, no compromise about what they think is right. And I mean, fixed energy is a really interesting energy. I've got a few planets in fixed signs myself.
But sometimes maybe in this period of history, it's necessary people that believe in something to be very stubborn about it and not to be wishy-washy and go and do it.
And maybe that's necessary. And that's necessary for change to come about, because people will stick to their beliefs, I suppose, and their ideas and their ideals. There is, the one thing that I mean, you talked about science with no heart as a concerning thing about Pluto and Aquarius, but I actually find this herd mentality quite scary as well, Lada. And I think that could be an unfortunate hallmark of Pluto and Aquarius, where people will, like, on the one hand, because it's such a contradictory sign. I mean, you know more about Aquarius than I do because you have it strong in your chart, but on the one hand, it's this eccentric individualism. And then on the other hand, it's like herd mentality, the masses, the group. And it's like, two
It's
polaric kind of energies.
ruled by Saturn and by Uranus.
Mm,
So some people, that's why I always say about two streams are forming in society. It started already with the Pluto, with the Jupiter Saturn conjunction in Aquarius. Pluto will deepen it. There's two streams of societies, that the ones that want to revolutionize everything, transform, or do it in a totally brand new ways, and the ones that are a herd mentality, like you talk. And what I'm worried about, Pluto is death, Aquarius is society. I think there'll be like more people leaving this world during this period, whether they so consciously chose, whether through some engineered process. Sometimes might be more organic, sometimes, but even if it's engineered by people above, like they want to decrease the population, they officially are saying that, whether it's through decreasing birth rates, demographics, whether it's through control of birth or other more nefarious means, it will happen. But I still do believe that the souls that will leave, their soul, the people that will leave, their soul chose it in some way.
Yes, yes.
But there'll be a bit like what they call it culling. I think there'll be a decrease in numbers of humans who live here, or almost like the herd, culling of the herd a little bit.
Well, that's right. Do you think it could be also referring to the death of society as we know it? The death of the social order that we have become used to?
Oh, absolutely.
I just, I can't help thinking that it's all, I don't like this sort of culling of the herd idea. That's just horrible.
Yeah.
But I think this, the death of the society as we know it is actually probably a beneficial thing when you think about the fact that we're on the rise up to greater consciousness when we're going through this move into Aquarius. And I don't know how much you correlate Pluto in Aquarius with the Aquarian age, but I think it's going to be a big rocket launch further into the age of Aquarius. It takes a couple of hundred years of transition for that to occur, but certainly this is going to be a big one.
Yeah, that's the rocket launch, exactly.
And the fact that when Pluto on these three moves into, maybe not the first one, but these moves into Aquarius is going to conjunct the 2020 Jupiter-Saturn point, which was at was it 0 degrees or 1 degree? 0 degrees of Aquarius. I think that's going to be very interesting. And if I really wanted to get mundane astrology and political, well, that's the rising degree of the Chinese chart, 1 degree of Aquarius.
So revolution there, some sort. Wow.
That's what I'm thinking. Like this whole, well, when we had the conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn there, I was like, well, this is the next 20 years. That conjunction is going to be effective in the chart of China on their ascendant. So a rise to power, a greater power, or and then Pluto activating that point. Sorry?
I see a lot of Western politicians, they want to follow the example of China. And they were the first one with 0 degree Aquarius. They were the first one to introduce the social credit, the electronic currencies. And there is a push that they want to do this for the rest of the world. And I know they will do it. I see it. Pluto in Aquarius, they'll really use that energy and force it. But people in the West are not, they think differently a bit. And there'll be a big resistance. And this two layering of society. And they'll find technological ways around this enslavement and this. They'll use the same means to beat the system somehow. But it's interesting. I really hope what you're saying, that this happens in China, that there is some kind of a revolution, because they're so controlled there.
Well, I mean, it will. If Pluto stays true to form, he'll dredge up all the muck, and the Chinese may very well sort of say enough's enough. Enough of this. So I mean, we will see.
By becoming more draconian, more extreme. So maybe that's what will happen. They'll just force it so far ahead, so much further, just like it can happen in Western societies, that people just, it's like an animal that is cornered in the that is in the corner. It is willing to self-destruct, but you know, in the process, but just to
Well,
free.
keep in mind, Lada, that I haven't got the exact dates in front of me, but Uranus is going to be trining Pluto in Aquarius. Yeah, when he moves into Gemini. So
Yeah.
I've got it written here somewhere, but I've got papers everywhere. So that's coming sort of after 2027, I guess, when Uranus moves into Gemini. And that's exciting because what's Uranus? Revolution, liberation, freedom, and with a beautiful harmonious trine to Pluto that is bringing up the muck and, you know, purging the crap in this social order.
Peaceful revolution. The transformation of society will happen more organically, more not in this bloody.
Well, like you were saying last time, when Pluto was in Aquarius, Uranus was there too, and that caused, you know, off with their heads, the guillotine in France and the Civil War in America. Well, it would stand to reason, wouldn't it, that Uranus trining Pluto this time is going to do it in a much gentler fashion. So I think there's hope with that. And we're also going to see, just to sort of blow things out a bit further, we have had the outer planets doing water and earth signs for quite a while now. And sort of starting with Pluto's move into Aquarius, we're going to see all the outer planets begin to move into fire and air. And I find that really exciting because it's the fire and air qualities that are connected to spirit, and momentum, and being proactive is another thing that fire and air are. They're the masculine kind of modality, and so I'm very curious. There's always this innate curiosity that I have about, well, what's this going to bring? What's going to happen here? I think there's some positivity in that. I think we've been so trenched in earth reality with water and earth for so long that there's going to be this liberation of spirit that I think might come too in the years ahead, which I'm clinging to hope. I have Jupiter rising, so I'm just always like, where's the glass half full here? But we'll see.
That's absolutely great observation, because Pluto, Uranus, Neptune, they indicate the collective moods overall and the collective consciousness. So it's with this so much fire, air, you're right, that the spirit and the mind, and there's some kind of spiritual revolution as well.
That's right. Well, I mean, it's Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, but also it's Saturn too, because when Neptune moves into Aries, so too will Saturn move into Aries. I'm actually a bit concerned about Saturn and Neptune conjunction, in all honesty, because they heralded communism last time.
Every time there was a really serious pandemic, we're talking here the plagues, we're talking the flu of 1918, where it's actual masses of people, not where it's manufactured, like where it's Pluto, Neptune, Neptune, Saturn, either in square, in conjunction is the worst. They always, so I'm worried already before they conjunct that there can be some new pandemic that starts in the next 2-3 years. So I touch on wood. One of
my teachers, Bernadette Brady, has done a lot of research about pandemics, and she uses different techniques to just the transits and what have you. She's a very extensive researcher. But she was saying 2028 is the next lineup according to her research, with midpoints and that sort of thing. So we'll see. We'll see. But I mean, we want to live with hope, don't we?
Yes.
And my strongest hope, Lada, is that this is, as opposed to last time, we were in the Bronze Age, you know, in the age of oh gosh, what was the Bronze Age? Age of Gemini. But it was a drop down. We were losing consciousness at that time. Now we're moving into the Bronze Age, and it's a rise up. So in my mind, yes, there's going to be upheavals and challenges, but generally speaking, things are going to get better. Things are going to get better because we're rising up. And I just cling to that idea when I see all sorts of crazy things happening in the world out there.
Yeah,
You know,
there'll
and
be dips, of course, just like with the 2 years that we were locked down. And I was like,
mm,
oh my God, it's so dark. But look at those people now. So many
mm,
people are just like so much more involved with what's happening in the world. They
yeah,
care much more. They realize how we've been manipulated. Before that, people were just consumerism, interested in
yeah.
reality shows, and now it's totally different. I love it.
Oh, me too, me too. And you know, it was a purifying process, and I think Pluto does that. He does tend to purify things through composting them. But I mean, in my friendship circles, I was very lucky. Most of my friends, we were all on a similar page with what was happening anyway. But there were a few that weren't, and it's really purified. You know, who I'm in a community with of like-mindedness and same goals for life and same vision for humanity and community. So in that sense, it's really lovely. And here in Australia, I'm sure it's the same in Bulgaria and in America as well. But I'm seeing so many alternative communities springing up, and not just digital communities too, but people
Yeah.
who are living in connection with the land, in connection with one another, giving and taking, bartering systems, that sort of thing. And just, it's so beautiful. We have a number of social media pages here, and I follow them all, just, you know, seeing, you know, what they're doing, what the projects are that they're involved with. I get excited when I see that, because my background is a community development planner. And so, you know, just to see this community side of Aquarius coming out, or beginning to show, and I think it's going to blossom even more. That's what gives me hope. You know, there are going to be alternatives. There are going to be ways around things, you know, and they might try and put more hierarchies and structures and top down in place, but Aquarius won't have it, because it's all about equality and equality for everybody. So I get excited and when I see those communities, and when I think about the potential of Pluto and Aquarius, and what it could bring.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly. The wet dreams of globalists, which is total centralization with top down, for a little bit it can happen. I see, but
yeah.
not, it's just not going to hold. You're going against the currents of the times. Aquarius is interconnected, interconnected, self-governing, sovereign.
Mm,
Everyone is equal, but everyone is as important. And there is not one center in the middle that tells everyone what to do. But of course,
yeah,
always there is an inversion against the forces of evolution, the organic ones. They always try to inverse it, the opposite. So they're pushing in for something that is
well,
centralized,
they
which is very Leo-like, but it was great in the age of Leo, because the ones on tops, they were high priestesses and priests. They were
yeah,
exalted beings. Nowadays.
yeah, they're human and the worst kind. Yes. But I do notice, like, it's telling to me that I see them trying to hurry up this 2030 agenda. Quick, 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 make it happen, make it happen. And I can't help but think, is that because they can see it's starting to unravel, maybe because we're moving into Pluto and Aquarius, and it's not gonna get traction, you know? I don't know. We'll see. I am interested also to observe what's going to happen with technocratic hierarchies, because I don't think Pluto will tolerate, you know, what do they call it? Silicon Valley kind of, you know, hierarchical structures any longer. It will be much, the idea will be that it will be much more for the masses with technology and the internet and that kind of thing. Pluto will try, and because there's two sides to Pluto. He's quite a complex character, isn't he? Like, he's power and control, and we can see probably we'll see technocratic companies wanting more power and control and dominance over people. And yet there will also be this composting of what is not Aquarian, you know, as well, that will happen. So, it's going to be interesting. But I think
with Pluto is like almost like the greed and powerful control self-destroys itself in whatever sign it goes. And whatever is too obsessive, overpowering, gets destroyed by the end of this process. But first it ramps up. So first
yes,
it's almost like the greed, ramps up the control, the whatever that's Aquarian digital control, it will ramp up and then it will self-destroy and purify and leave whatever achievement, scientific and technological, on a way more pure ground for use for something more benevolent.
Yeah. And when you think about it, I mean, that is Pluto exposing things, isn't it? Like revealing the corruption, because, you know, things have to get intense, Pluto, for people to wake up and realize, oh my God, this is like what's been happening with governments, what's been happening with hierarchies and so forth. To be blatantly obvious for us to realize, oh, this is no good. We want to get rid of this. This is not the way we want the world to function. Yeah, I don't know. It's very, very interesting. I think Jeffrey Wolf Green, who I just adore, you mentioned that you're interested in evolutionary astrology at the moment. His work is on Pluto. He wrote two volumes on Pluto, which are just the Bible of Pluto energy. And he talks about there being, in this Pluto Volume 1, talks about there being 3 strata of humanity, or actually 4. There are the people who are just newly evolved into human consciousness. And so that might be, you know, maybe they were, I don't know, a cat beforehand and they were involved up to, you know, up the ladder to be a human. And so there's that level of humans. There might be only like 5% of people that are that. And then there is the 70%, which are the herd, the masses. You know, that seems about right to me. You know, people who need to be told what to do, they need a governing structure. And then there are maybe another 10% who, and I hope I'm getting my percentages right here, 10 to 20% who are individuated, he calls them, and they're awake to what's going on and they can see, hang on a minute, it's not right, you know, and that makes me angry that they're doing that, because that's, you know, they can see through the bullshit. And then the final percentage, which I've lost track of what my what my numbers were, but it's only a small percentage, maybe 5%, who are the highly evolved consciousness on the planet, that are sort of like the Dalai Lamas, I suppose, if you want to use him as an analogy, or the Venus Sadunos, who have this higher evolution of consciousness. And I'm just going to read what Jeffrey says, not so much about Pluto and Aquarius, but about these groups and where their trajectory is in the future. He says herd types will continue to belong to the mainstream groups, because Aquarius is groups, you know, and organizations and clubs and like the 11th house kind of energy there. And so there will be that 70% that will want to be part of all that sort of thing. But the individuated group will seek to belong to independently minded groups that are those breakaway factions. And so, you know, to everybody watching here going, oh my goodness, what am I going to do when Pluto goes into Aquarius? Find a group of like-minded people, you know, connect with, you know, people who are growing their own food and developing their own electricity and
groups. The cool kids out, you know, like school.
That's it. That's right. That's right. The ones who can see what's going on.
Oh, the nerds or whatever.
Happy to be a nerd. Happy to be a nerd. Yep. Especially in Aquarian times, being a nerd is cool. But also, and then the final group of people, that highly evolved state, those spiritual state people will belong to spiritual groups, because remember, like Aquarius is very much about connection and groups. So there will continue to be a sense of belonging as Pluto goes through Aquarius. But what kind of group are we going to belong to? And we should start seeking that out now, I think, you know, as we move into this 20-year cycle. It's going to be interesting times. And you were telling me, Lada, before we started recording, about involvement with an alternative schooling group, which I just think is so fantastic. You know, all for those alternative forms of education and like Steiner schools and stuff like that, and Montessori. I just think that's really exciting what you're doing.
Yeah, well, we'll see if the kids like it. Well, thank you.
They'll love it.
Kesenya, I absolutely love this, what you've prepared, this discussion, and you put such a positive twist on it. My mind is still in a dark state. I'm still Saturn is still in my first house as Pluto is hovering next to the ascendant. So I'm like, the apocalypse.
It's hard not to. It's hard not to with all that we've been through in the last few. I mean, Pluto is trauma too, and we've been traumatized by the hierarchies, you know. But, you know, it's so interesting to me. Pluto is he's the trouble, but he's also the antidote, you know. He's the trauma, but he's also the solution to trauma, because Pluto rules therapy. So I don't know, a Pluto Aquarian therapy could be simply, you know, disconnecting from society in some way and living alternatively. And that might be our therapy, you know, or forming bonds with people that we would never have formed bonds with before, unique people, individual people who don't care what anyone thinks, you know. Their individuated kind of energy might be, you know, very soothing to our you know, traumatized souls after the last few years. So I don't know, we'll see. Pluto therapy in Aquarius, it's an interesting topic.
Group therapy. It's being in the right community, being seen by the right kind of people and belonging to them. That's extremely therapeutic, actually. Actually, even AA, which is kind of outdated system, and all systems that are dealing with trauma, being part of a group is what raises the consciousness and heals from trauma. A group that is already healed, or that is already in a different vibration. Nothing does it fast. Trying to do it alone, it's hard. When you go, imagine you're sitting at home and trying to make yourself very happy. Imagine suddenly you're teleported into a crowd of people that are chanting, excited for something. Even if you don't know what it is about, you'll be like, happy immediately.
Yeah.
The vibration. So that is incredible observation that you did. Like a group will raise our consciousness together in groups and or group therapy of any sort, or just belonging to the right people. And
that would be therapy.
Some amazing research. When were people's happiest times? And you'd say like, oh, when my child was born, or when I got this job, or when I met my partner, whatever. But often people would give more longer chunks of time when they felt they belong, when they had a community.
Yes.
That's when they were the happiest, which is incredible what it can do for your mental, emotional, psychological well-being. And I think that's what people realize again, because we've been disconnected enough, and maybe just this connection with just 3 or 4 people, but the right people, that's you. It's life gains meaning again, and it's therapeutical.
That is so true, Lada. That is so true. And we'll find it in many various unusual places where we never expected to find it. But yeah, community and connection is where it's really at, I think, you know. That's so lovely. Yeah.
Thank you, Kesenya. You develop all those ideas. I
think we work well together. It's the collaboration of Aquarian energy. That's what it is.
My Pluto is on your moon as well, so.
Oh, that's what it is. Oh, your Pluto with my Uranus too. Oh, nice.
Whoa, fire there.
Yeah, that's why my thoughts come so thick and fast when I'm talking to you. I'm just like,
me, you know, sometimes with other people I get blocked, but
no, we inspire each other. It's good.
It was a pleasure to me. I'm sweating. I need to take a bath now out of excitement. And if anyone would like to learn with Kesenya her courses, and her new course on the transit of midlife, which starts from around 35 to 57-8, you can check out her new course. I'm sure you see her style. It's perfectly researched. She's a master astrologer, and I'm very excited that you contributed to this most interesting topic for 2023. I'm glad that you're the one who did it.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens. I think we'll all be sitting back here with our popcorn, just watching what unfolds.
Only the good
Thank
side.
you so much, Lada.
Thank you, Kesenya. Have a great, happy 2023.
Thank you, and to everyone else as well.
Thank you for joining us. Bye-bye.